I find so many people, when they say they don't like mushrooms, they actually just don't like rubbery mushrooms, which, newsflash, nobody likes. You might like mushrooms if they're cooked and prepared correctly, all because maybe your grandma or your mom or your dad or whoever cooked them for you as a kid didn't know how to cook them properly. Doesn't mean that they don't taste good to you. So I appreciate it when folks always have an open mind when it comes to, mushroom prep and consuming mushrooms, because they can really provide so much. They're a renewable resource. The flavor is out of this world. And of course, if you live in Washington, this is Fungi Kingdom, baby. What up, what up? Back on another episode of Footsteps and Foraging. I'm out here. It's late October in northern Washington. Wasn't sure I was going to come out today because it's pretty rainy, but I'm glad I did. Let's get to it. Collect some of these chanterelles. Yeah, baby. Chia, boy. As I like to say, if you find one chanterelle, you're usually going to find more. So we're going to go ahead and look around this area and see if there's any more delights. I see a handful right here, but I'm going to check my feet. Hopefully not crush and walk on a bunch of them. Okay, let's get to picking. Lovely. Look at this beautiful chanterelle. This thing's delicious looking. Another juicy one. Another one. Some of these are pretty waterlogged because we're later in the season and it's been raining for a couple weeks. Temperatures have still been good, but it's just tons of rain, and mushrooms are like sponges, right? They just soak up all the moisture. So it's really important that when I get these home, I dry saute them, and maybe I even put a little fan on them to dry them out before I start cooking them. That way they don't have that rubbery texture to them. I find so many people, when they say they don't like mushrooms, they actually just don't like rubbery mushrooms, which, newsflash, nobody likes. You might like mushrooms if they're cooked and prepared correctly, all because maybe your grandma or your mom or your dad or whoever cooked them for you as a kid didn't know how to cook them properly. Doesn't mean that they don't taste good to you. So I appreciate it when folks always have an open mind when it comes to, mushroom prep and consuming mushrooms, because they can really provide so much. They're a renewable resource. The flavor is out of this world. And of course, if you live in Washington, this is Fungi Kingdom, baby. And if this is Fungi Kingdom, then what does that make me? Maybe like a duke? A pretty kick-ass mushroom duke, if you ask me. Look at this hat. Look at this bad boy. This is all from one little honey hole right here. I just feel like it would be really pretentious to call myself Mushroom Prince or Mushroom King. I'll call Tanisha Mushroom Princess because that's what she is, but at the best, I'm a Duke or a Baron. Maybe like a Bishop, but I'm not really into religion, so, you tell me. So long as we're talking about mushroom hunting tips and tricks, at least chanterelles in the Northwest, I know I've mentioned before in previous videos that, hey, if you see one mushroom, look around, you're probably going to see more. That's true with a lot of mycorrhizal, like terrestrial dwelling mushrooms. But I found that specifically with chanterelles and morels, in this case chanterelles of course, that if you find one, you want to look for another patch of mycelium that's not too far off. Not just like the actual fruiting bodies, but a whole other patch of mycelium, you know, 20, 30 yards away, whatever. So your mind might think, okay, well, why don't I look laterally, you know, along the side of the hill where I found them, or wherever you are. That's a good idea. I found in personal experience, you're gonna have better luck looking linearly. Look up and down the hillside. The patch will often follow the water flow, so it'll come up and down the gully rather than across the hillside. In this case, I walked like, I don't know, maybe 30 or 40 feet uphill from where I just found that nice juicy little honey hole. And here we have a handful more mushrooms. We have one here, 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 and I'm sure there are probably a few more laying around here somewhere. Hopefully my booty's not crushing any of them. Anyways, let's pick these. I'll also mention, some of you in the comments or watching the video might say, hey, wait a second, Joe, Mr. Overhill, Duke of Mushrooms, shouldn't you be cutting those stems off that before you pluck it out of the earth? Well, it's a good question. Truth is, it doesn't matter. There's no scientific evidence at all that supports that plucking, at least chanterelles, does any harm to the biomass of the mycelium compared to cutting it. Doesn't matter. That's just an old thing that was passed down generation to generation for whatever reason. You can totally pluck them. Of course, cutting them is more aesthetic and it keeps your mushrooms cleaner. That's best practice once you've already taken them, you know, out of the ground and you're going to put them into your basket or netted bag. And it's one of those spousal things where my partner hates it, drives her crazy, but she ain't here today. I'm a wild boy. So I'm plucking and I'm throwing them in the bag and I'm going to clean them later. Maybe listen to some Lord of the Rings. Now literally just a few feet away from where I was just plucking those other ones here, I found this guy. They like this mossy kind of patchy looking area. Nice. So the mycelium patches of the mushrooms, I mean, they're growing, exchanging nutrients with the root system of these trees, all these trees that you see around me, right? So pro tip is you want to find mushrooms, you want to know mushrooms, well, find and know your trees. Now that said, I don't know if it's a matter of causation versus correlation, but a lot of chanterelles I find, they don't grow like in the thick of things. They're usually in areas where there's a little bit less competition, so they can grow, you know, they get warmth from sunlight. They don't photosynthesize, but they get warmth from sunlight, which they need. Soil's a little bit warmer, and they really like salal and Oregon grape, if you're in the Northwest and you're familiar with those plants, and they like ferns, hanging out under ferns. So here's my mushroom basket, and here's where I'm just foraging, and you can see it's out in the open. So what I meant by causation versus correlation is like, well, do I just find them here because it's visible, or do they only grow here compared to in the underbrush? They do grow in some underbrush, but I'm likely to think the former, that they do actually like this really ferny, mossy, carpety area. And I found that to be true all the way from, you know, the Olympic rainforest out here to the Cascades. Check out this honker. I mean, I've seen bigger. That's not what she said, is it? I don't know. But yeah, I've seen bigger, but this is pretty big. It's a little waterlogged, so I will show you when I get home how to do the fan trick to make sure they're a little dried out and not all rubbery. But for now, lovely bouquet. Stop and smell the fungi. Here's a little button, looking good. Great texture on those guys, and here's one that's a little bit bigger in the duff. And I love kind of striations of those forked gills. Beautiful. Oh, hey, there's another one. Nice. Always, as I always say, stop and look around. You'll find a second mushroom. Okay, I've been out here for, I don't know, hour and a half. What is time? What is age? What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. No more. I don't know how long I've been out here. A little while. And I found a pretty good haul. Not bad being by my lonesome without my better half, who's frankly a much better mushroom forager than I am. Don't tell her I said that. Actually, tell her. I love her. She's great. But yeah, so I'm going to keep looking. Maybe explore one more area, then see if I can go home, grab some lunch, take a nap. But yeah, it's been good luck so far. I'm trying to prioritize walking in areas that are easily accessible, doing some low-key, some like good scouting for next year, for earlier season next year, and hoping that I can freeze some of the mushrooms that I've collected today, cook some, save some for later. But first I gotta prep them. Also, you might thinking, Whoa, Joe, Mr. Overhill, what's with the umbrella? Are you a noob to the Pacific Northwest? Don't you know that no one in Oregon and Washington uses an umbrella? And I am aware of that. And while I'm not sure I agree with that trope, I do understand it. I brought it today because, frankly, my camera's kind of expensive and I don't want to get it wet. Otherwise, I'd probably leave it at home. But I did use this umbrella on the Continental Divide Trail across New Mexico, at least like the bottom half of New Mexico. Really, it's better suited for sun than it is for inclement weather. But today, it's getting the job done and hopefully keeping my camera a little drier. Okay, so I've been out here for about 2 hours. I got, a couple pounds, maybe a couple gallons, but not too much. I'm satisfied for today. Foraging season, still hella chanterelles out here to be foraged, so maybe I'll come out next weekend. But for now, I'm gonna go home, prep these, and hopefully eat good a little later. Okay, I didn't find like a ton of chanterelles, but I found plenty. How many can 2 people and a cat eat anyway? This is the haul from today, and here's what I'm gonna do to go ahead and dry them out. So some folks have a better system. If you have some nice kitchen fans or some small portable fans, they can work even better. I don't, so I have these on cutting boards drying out on paper towels. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go ahead and have this fan, this oscillating tower fan moving, just moving side to side, and I have it on the lowest setting. And I'm going to keep it positioned over these chanterelles for maybe an hour or 2 hours. On the other side, I have my space heater right here, and a crazy cat who's running in here. Just to make sure that these can get a little bit drier. If not, they're going to have that really rubbery texture to them, especially some of these guys like this one that are a little older or a little bit more watery, some of these big honkers in here. So in any case, you don't want to do this too long, because if you let these dry for too long like this, then they're going to lose a lot of flavor. So it doesn't take a whole lot. Like I said, maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours. Keep your fan very low when you do this, and then anything else that's still in there, all that extra moisture that still could be in there when it comes time to cooking, you can just go ahead and dry saute, and that should get rid of a lot of it. Also, keep in mind that once these are done here, I'm going to put them in the fridge in a paper bag, and that'll help dry them out a little bit as well. And then finally, like I referenced, ideally you want to go ahead and cut the bottoms off these and brush them a little bit so they're a little cleaner, but I'm a lazy son of a bitch, so this is what I'm doing right now, and I will clean them later. Hopefully they maintain better texture with a brush when they're drier.